What's up guys, welcome to Voicey here. This is your host, Captain Zach, and today's subreddits are r/IDontWorkHereLady and r/TIFU. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, this story's called, I guess because I'm in red, I work at the Red Circle store? So, I'm a teacher, and my go-to for the classroom is khaki pants, with all sorts of pockets to hold things, and whatever nice shirt I grab out of the closet that morning. So, of course, the day I need to go buy diapers, I'm in a red collared shirt. We get our diapers from the Red Circle store. As I'm looking through the boxes of diapers for the sizes we need, I spot the last box for my youngest buried behind the others. I start moving the boxes out of the way so I can get to it when an entitled bee walks around the corner. "Excuse me, could you grab that pack from the top shelf for me?" Sure. Give me a second to get mine and put these back." "But you work here. Stop doing what you're doing and get that pack for me. You can finish when I'm done." Yes, she actually said when I'm done. "Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm getting diapers for my kids." "Then why are you in the Red Circle store uniform? Stop lying to me and get me my box." "Fine, whatever." Having finished putting the boxes back, I grab the box from the top shelf. I also notice it's the size I need for my oldest and the last of the larger boxes of that brand. "Oh, perfect. I didn't see these. Thank you." I take the box and start walking to the front. "What? You can't do that. I need those diapers. My babe is coming this weekend." "Weekend? This was a 50-plus box of diapers. Sorry, I need the size and grabbed them first." "I need to talk to your manager now." "Sure. Her name is principal's name at local school. I'll let her know you're calling." Didn't hear the rest of the rambling. As I'm checking out with my now 3 boxes of diapers, she walks towards me with an actual employee. "That's him. He stole those diapers right out of my hand. He needs to be fired." "Ma'am, he doesn't work here." Shocked Pikachu face as I leave the store. Okay, well, that woman did act kinda rude and bossy. He didn't need to walk away with their diapers, but I'm glad he did, honestly. I'm glad he did. This story's called, I'm Brown, so I obviously work here. Some backstory. I'm a Sikh teen who wears a turban. Second-generation immigrant who was born and raised in Canada. I live in the Greater Toronto area, which is known for its diversity. In this story, however, I was taking a trip to Niagara Falls, as many Ontarians do. Outside of the city, there is a smaller town that is called Niagara-on-the-Lake that is home to a pretty nice outdoor outlet mall that I thought I should visit. Now, unlike the Toronto area, this small town was almost all white people and had little to no diversity. So, my family looked pretty out of place. I was in an Under Armour store and was about to put back a sweater I didn't like when a lady asked me, "How much are these sweaters?" "I'm sorry, I don't work here." "Oh, I'm sorry, you were just putting back the sweater really nicely, so I thought you worked here." It's okay, I try not to make the employee's job harder. She was then really apologetic. It was just an honest mistake. Later on in the day, I was walking around a store when another lady asked me, "Hey, can you check if you have a uniform in medium in the..." Her realizing I'm not wearing the same brand as the store I'm in. "Do you work here?" "No, I don't. I'm sorry." "Oh, sorry." This time, however, I wasn't doing anything that would signal I work there. Finally, I was in a different store, just browsing, when yet again, a different lady asked me, "Do you know where the purses are?" For the 3rd time, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." She just walks away. This is when it finally clicks. They thought I worked here because of what I look like, with the exception of maybe the first lady. Like, what could a brown guy be possibly doing at a mall other than working there? Like, I don't know, maybe shopping? Now, I acknowledge none of them were rude in any way, but I was certainly confused at first as to why everyone thought I worked there. This goes to show that sometimes for people who live in small towns without diversity, your brain is sometimes instinctively racist without you thinking about it. Side note, definitely visit the mall if you're in the area. It's called Outlet Collection Niagara. It is outdoors, has all the name brands, and is dog friendly. Alright, so that story was shamefully uneventful. I was hoping for a big fight on the waterfall, but whatever. That's just me. With my unrealistic expectations, I guess. Alright, this one's called Today I Fridged Up by almost getting my brother kicked out of my parents' house over thermal paste. Obligatory, this was a few years ago. I work in the IT field and have always been handy with computers. Growing up, when I lived in my parents' house, I did computer repair here and there, and often had many computer parts and accessories with me. When I left my parents' house, I ended up leaving a few things behind in my room. My brother was still living with my parents at the time, and he has been known to dabble in illegal activities. So my mom is already on the paranoid side of things. Fast forward about 2 years and I get a frantic call from my mom.
I found a syringe in your room and I think it's for drugs, but your brother keeps lying to me, says it's yours. Do you know anything about this?
I asked some leading questions and asked her what my brother said it was.
He's saying it's for a computer, but I know better.
Okay, is any writing on it? Does it have a needle?
There's no needle and there's a company name on the side.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's the company name? And did you Google it?
It says Thermaltech on the side, and when I went to Google it, all it came up with was computer parts. I know you don't use syringes for computers.
Okay, so let's walk through this together, okay? You found said syringe, and he said it was for a computer, and it was mine. You Googled the company name, and all you found were computer parts. You found it in my room. You know I work on computers, and there was no needle. It's thermal paste, Mom. It's used to apply a thin layer of paste for heat dispersion on the processor and graphics card. You're screaming at him over thermal paste. If it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it swims like a duck. Did you ever think to stop that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth? Oh, click. I gave my brother a call to let him know what I just told my mom, and so he can never let her live it down. Wow. Okay, I feel bad for the brother, you know? It sucks to have your parents, expect you to do bad things. Personally, I never experienced that, firsthand, but I know plenty of people whose parents just basically gave up on them, and it's sad. But kudos to the Redditor for, clearing things up and giving his brother some dirt on his mom. Yeah, good one. Alright, now for a story that I am admittedly very excited to read. It's called Today I Flubbed by slapping my assistant principal's butt. As per tradition, this did not happen today. This was 8 years ago. So, I'm notorious for being really bad at first impressions. And it all starts here. Now, as a bit of necessary information, you need to know this side story. In my last year of middle school, I was best friends with a girl who will go by the name of Cass for this post. Cass and I had a little inside joke where every time one of us saw each other in the hallways, we would run to the other and do something or anything to briefly annoy the other, and usually something that hurt a little bit. Then run away. Then, later in the day, the other person would do what was done to them back to the other. For example, I would run up to her and give her an Indian burn, poke her in the side, a wet willy, or anything along those lines, knowing fully that by the day's end, I would receive the same thing back to me. It was my first week of my freshman year of high school, the second day to be exact. I was the stereotypical freshman with eyes glued to the school map so I could get from class to class with time to spare. I had not seen Cass in any classes or the hallway yet in the day and a half in my new school. I was walking to my next class when I hear some shuffling and then smack! Somebody had slapped my butt pretty darn hard. I quickly see Cass running through the sea of people, hearing some random people giggling at me. And I immediately begin to plan my revenge. 2 classes later, I am heading to the last class of the day, and there I see it. A female who I had every belief was my friend of 4 years, Cass. Same height, same hair length, and same hair color. I unfortunately did not take note of what Cass was wearing that day. I was too busy rubbing the newly formed handprint-shaped bruise on my butt and piecing together what had just happened. I am walking with a different friend of mine and I say, "Hey, watch this," as I begin to creep up to my victim. I get right behind her, I wind my arm back as far as it goes, and I release all of my strength and land a perfectly placed smack on the left butt cheek. I even said the word BANG as I landed the 5-star slap. It was such a perfect slap that I did not run away through the crowd as I usually would with our running joke. I waited to see her reaction so we could laugh about it. It is at this point that my victim stood still in her tracks. She did not even jump or flinch in shock. She simply placed her left hand on her left hip and quickly turned around to look at me. She turns around to see me holding my hand up high in victory, big smile on my face. She turns, and it is not Cass. In fact, it is one of the 3 assistant principals of this school. I knew this because I remembered the face from my orientation. My smile immediately turned into mass panic, fear, and embarrassment. In my 22 years of now currently living, I have never begun to cry so uncontrollably, so quickly and immediately. I exploded into a puddle of tears. I tried to get words out, but I was unable. I was just so overwhelmed with emotion. Through the tears, I began to look around, as if it were out of a Hollywood movie during a bully-style fistfight. There was a circle of students around the 2 of us, watching in suspense and confusion. In the sea of people, I see her. I see Cass with her eyes wide and her hand over her mouth. She knows exactly what just happened. I couldn't finish looking around me due to the fact I had an adult wrap her hand around the collar of my shirt and pull me down the hallway. I was immediately brought to the principal. She proceeds to tell him how the student slapped me. I still could not sleep due to the condition I was in. In what felt like the blink of an eye, my father was in the office. He came in like a raging bull, half disgusted and half confused because slapping a teacher was absolutely nothing like me. He finishes his heated lecture to me when I finally gained the strength to speak. Through the gasps, I word, "I didn't slap her in the face. It was her butt." At this point, everybody in the room's expression changed. The principal went from anger to confusion, my father went from rage to confusion, and a little bit of "Hey!" And the assistant principal went from mad to even more mad. My initial punishment was being expelled and brought up on violation charges. After 2 months of meetings and pleading my case, even bringing Cass into some of my superintendent hearings, the charges were dropped and I was suspended for 2 more weeks. So finally, 2.5 months into the school year, I was able to complete my first week of high school. That is, until I got suspended again for another incident that was way beyond my control. But that is for another post. Okay, so that was funny and all, but I feel really bad. She slapped her freaking assistant principal's butt. I don't even want to know what would have happened if it was a guy. Ugh, goodness. Today I flubbed up at my nephew's wedding. This was a complete cluster flub up. Last night, my family and I attended my nephew's wedding out of town. It's a 5-hour drive to get there, and I always find being away from home plays hell with my digestive system. I have an irregular poo schedule, and can sometimes go a day or 2 without a sit-down, then have 3 in a day. Traveling just makes it worse. So yesterday, after our long drive, we checked into our hotel and I was starting to feel like I had to go. Took my shower and shaved, but the third S never happened for me. I continued to feel a bit of pressure in my gut, but made the best of it. Fast forward to the wedding reception, and after a couple of champagnes, appetizers, and a 3-course dinner with wine and dessert, I felt rumbling and knew it was time. The bar was open by this point, and the men's room was getting crowded with guys. So I had to grab the first available toilet stall as quickly as possible. This led to flip up number 1. In my haste, I didn't check to see if there was any toilet paper. I dropped my pants and sat expecting release and relief of built-up pressure. But at first, nothing. Things weren't progressing as quickly as I had hoped. I could tell there was a bit of a logjam, but knew from past experience that trying to force things along would just lead to problems. After a few minutes of sitting there browsing Reddit on my phone, I felt a twinge. The twinge became a slight spasm, which then became an involuntary contraction. Suddenly, I knew it was on. The impacted turd slug was starting its reluctant way out of my colon. But it was big. Really, really big. I felt my butthole starting to stretch and got slightly panicky, wondering if there was some way I could avoid what was coming next. I knew I had to let nature run its course, so I turned to prayer, asking God to deliver me from the— Oh God! My poop chute felt like it was tearing. It felt like a minute, but in reality it was only a second or so. But it was terribly, terribly uncomfortable. I heard and felt the splash at the same time. And then things got, messy. Again, from experience, I knew the initial bomb would have resulted in a clean wipe since it was so hard and dry. However, what followed next was completely unfortunate. A torrent of pent-up, sticky, gooey, smelly crap with the consistency of warm fudge poured out of me. It was awful. My gut was convulsing and I had to suppress as 2 days worth of meals slopped into the toilet. Once the worst of the storm passed, I tried to execute a courtesy flush. And this is where Flubbed Up number 2 occurred. Or, more accurately, an extension of Flubbed Up number 1. I had failed to notice that, unlike the wheelchair-accessible toilet stall, this one did not have a commercial-grade power flush toilet. No. Oh, no. It had a residential-grade tank toilet. Worse, it was a water-saver tank that was completely inadequate for the task at hand. I pressed the handle, heard a slight gurgling sound, then terrible silence as the water in the bowl, now perilously close to the rim, failed to flush away my shame. I had plugged the gosh darn toilet. It's okay, I thought. I'll just clean it up, make my getaway, and leave it for someone else to find. Unethical, I know, but I was riding several glasses of wine and in a strange city, so my judgment was affected. I reached for the toilet paper. The toilet paper! Where was the toilet paper? I started to sweat as the full horror of my situation hit me. I was trapped in a tiny cubicle, dripping warm, creamy dookie I couldn't clean off my butt over a toilet that wouldn't flush it away even if I could. A bunch of guys were in the washroom talking and joking. In a shaky and cowed voice, I sang out, "Hey, can one of you guys grab me a roll from the other stall?" Someone drunkenly replied, "I got you." And a few moments later, one rolled under the stall door. I thanked him and got to work cleaning up. This was a 3-wipe job. And here we have Flubbed Up number 3. For having asked for the toilet paper, I couldn't now just stroll out and leave the toilet in that condition. Within moments, someone else would use the stall, see what I had done, and probably call me out before I got past the sink. No, I had to do something. The toilet had to flush this horrible, horrible evidence of my malcontent bowels away. I swiveled my head rapidly looking for something, anything, that could help. But alas, there wasn't even a toilet brush. Then the truth dawned on me, and at first I pushed it away, going so far as to cover my eyes in my refusal to concede to its terrible inevitability. But it was hopeless. I knew what I had to do. I rolled up my shirt sleeves, threw one last forlorn glance to the heavens in the vain hope that God would intervene, and plunged my hands into the bowl. After a few moments of grunting, splashing, and cursing, I realized that the washroom had gone quiet. Dead, flippin' quiet. Oh, the silence. The awful, dreadful silence. The sheer lunacy of the situation. Me, in suit and tie, oxter deep in the toilet, wrestling with my own greasy turd. Them, a group of strangers, mostly young men in their 20s, listening in what I could only imagine was a rising mix of disgust, incredulity, hilarity, and disbelief, came over me all at once. And I did what anyone would do if it weren't happening to them. I laughed. I belly laughed into the echoing silence of the men's rooms in a smallish golf and country club at 8:17 p.m. on a Saturday evening, while an untold number of men stood just a pace or two away, listening to what I imagined to them must have sounded exactly like what it was. A grown man playing with his own crap in the toilet. I flushed the toilet again, fighting the urge to wipe tears from my eyes with my crap-covered hands, and to my amazement and relief, watched as the little whirlpool carried away the whole sorry lot. I took more toilet paper and wiped my hands, flushed once more, and manfully, pridefully, and confidently strode from the cubicle through the clutch of men to wash my hands. The soap dispenser, of course, was empty. Okay, I'm done. I can't breathe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.